Madam President, I thank the gentleman for the time, and I rise in support of this resolution. You know, we've only been able to use the Congressional Review Act successfully one time, and I think that means at some point we need to look at the Congressional Review Act because these regulations often don't meet the common sense standard, and this is one of them. Now, it appears to meet the standards that the president would want his regulators to meet. In fact, in January of 2008, the president, while running for president, said coal-fired plants would go bankrupt and electricity rates, he said later in the campaign, would necessarily skyrocket under his plan to tax greenhouse gas emissions and through what was then the cap and trade system. The House passed that system in 2009. Missouri utilities all went together, the rural electric cooperatives, the for-profit utilities, the municipal utilities. They paid for a study in our state, which is in the top 6 states of dependence on coal. That study indicated that the average utility bill would go up 82% in the first 10 years and double shortly after that. Now, you don't have to be a genius to get your utility bill out and multiply it by 2. And if that's your utility bill at home, it may be a utility bill you can't pay. If your utility bill at work, it may mean that your job is no longer there because the utility bill went up. But that House-passed bill would have had that result in our state, and 5 states are more dependent on coal than we are for utilities. The Senate then rejected the cap and trade bill, and thank goodness they did. But when they did, the president said that there are other ways to skin the cat, his quote, and he said, other ways besides just an all of the above energy policy. His administration has bypassed the Congress, bypassed the will of the American people, and they're clearly trying to do by regulation what I believe the Congress would now never do. Once the American people figured out that cap and trade and policies like that would have this devastating impact on their utility bill, about 50% of all the utilities from the middle of Pennsylvania to the western edge of Wyoming are coal-generated utilities. Once people figured that out and the impact it had on their ability to have a job and their ability to do what they need to do at their house, they just don't want to do it. The EPA, with this rule, has finalized a regulation that would require power companies to reduce emissions in a period that's just unrealistically short. A 3-year time frame means that in many facilities, power generating facilities, you don't reduce emissions, you close the plant. What this really stands for is an assault on coal and coal-based utilities. The director of EPA, Lisa Jackson, said, the administrator said recently that current challenges to the coal industry are entirely economic. That's what she said, entirely economic. I don't know how anyone who's paying attention to the EPA, to regulations, or to the price of coal could say that the problems are entirely economic. They're not economic at all. We have more recoverable coal than anybody in the world. We now think we have more recoverable natural gas than anybody in the world. By 2016, under the current EPA rules that are out there, plus this one, our utilities in our state would go up as much as 23%. For the average Missourian, more than that for people in some parts of our states, a 23% increase on your utility bill by 2016. The estimates are that by 2020, we'll lose 76,000 jobs because of that increase in utility rates. And Madam President, where will those jobs go? They're not going to go to California or Massachusetts or somebody that has bills that are higher than ours today. They're going to go to places that care a whole lot less about what comes out of the smokestack than we do. Last year, in states where coal generated at least 60% of the electricity, customers paid 30% less in energy prices than states that use less coal than that to produce their electricity. And in our state, as I've said before, 82% of our electricity comes from coal.
Senator's time's expired.
And so I would just urge my colleagues to vote for this rule that would, for the issue before us that would say we don't want to have this rule. We want to do the right thing, not the wrong thing. And I thank the gentleman for the time.